Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we are looking at the G.I. Joe headquarters. The G.I. Joe headquarters was first released in the United States in 1992, and unfortunately, it was discontinued in 1994. So that did give us 3 years worth of having this wonderful headquarters kind of vehicle, kind of playset. The mold was also reused in 2001 to create the 2001 G.I. Joe headquarters. So it's, just an updated version of it. Looking at the pictures, which I think we will get at, didn't really look like there was much of a change. They just kind of recolored and reissued. This is the fully armed, multi deployable G.I. Joe Command Station. So, having a few pictures here, someone had been gracious enough to supply yojo.com a wonderful picture of this playset being opened up. It looks like we have some fighting going on here as well. Uh, my kind of thought process on this really is it's a kind of more mobile teams command headquarters. Something that can be deployed for all your different teams, whether it's your Night Force, your Tiger Force, Arctic Patrol, Sky Patrol, stuff like that. Um, that way, it gives everyone a nice headquarters, kind of like what Cobra has with the Terrordrome. We have the main one, which is a huge contraption, and then there's some smaller ones that they can deploy out for smaller headquarters here and there in different areas that they really need to fortify. Uh, as we kind of go through all of the schematics, and this does fold up for kids to be able to store it away for the evening, so mom and dad aren't mad at them leaving it out and all that. So it does make some sense there. And that also gives me that kind of concept of this is something that they can put in, deliver as a modular building, quickly construct it, and then their team has a command headquarters that they can kind of go with. So back in '83, we had the old command center. So that gave us a vehicle bay that we could repair a vehicle with, a prison cell, and all that, and a main cannon, loosely based off of what we would see out of the cartoon. Um, I've started reading the old original Larry Hama comics, and I have not gotten to see where they're doing any headquarters like this. I don't remember where the headquarters were located, but I do remember it's underneath a army camp's kind of chapel and motor pool. So, uh, I don't know how many comics I'm actually in because it is a very nice, thick book. And what makes it worse is I've got it digitally, so I've got it on my phone, so I can always take it with me when I have some time. I can sit there and read it. But it's come up with some interesting things that they thought of way back then. All right, so then we fast forward to '92. So 9 years later, then we get our command headquarters, or our headquarters here in 2001. And like I said, it's more of a tan and gray, more of a desert look to it. And then later on, we get the Pitt mobile headquarters in 2009, which is really, in my mind, a revamp of the mobile headquarters. So, uh, just kind of taking it from that aspect. Now, unfortunately, we do not have a price here from yojo.com. So if anybody had it, I don't think anyone remembers how much it had cost at the time, but we'll go from there. Let's get on over to our D6 stats and see what we have. All right, so as we look at the G.I. Joe, and as I've termed it, the G.I. Joe Team's headquarters. We're going to keep this at Walker scale. Now, I borrowed the beginning stats on this, really from the old battle platform that we had done years from years prior model. So I didn't change the length or anything. How wide this thing's going to be, I'm not 100% certain, just being honest. So I just left that at 40 feet. It's probably going to be a lot wider than that. It's going to have a crew of 8. Now, the reason why I'm saying a crew of 8 is I'm just kind of counting up some of the cannons here. We do have probably more cannons than this. Just what I've got listed, we have the 6 tube missile launcher, which is in the front. We have 3 blaster cannons. There's 2 at the doors here. We have kind of cannon slots, and then we also have one up on top. And then we also have 3 anti-tank missile launchers. So we do have one off on the side here. I believe there is one on the top and another one sitting off on the adjacent side from the other one. Just throwing that out there to say, I think we're going to need at least 8 people, one for communications and the other 7 for manning all the cannons. Now, because this is going to be for teams, we're going to want to have housing here for at least 30 people. That way, that gives us a nice starting base to say, here's your headquarters. We can get you enough room for personnel and all that to get your team up and going. If we need extra barracks or supply depots or anything else from there, they can create it after that. But this is a nice starting point for any headquarters for any Joe team. All right. I did not change the cargo capacity, so that's still a holdover from the battle platform, keeping it at 20 tons. If this is a modular building itself, we don't want to go too extreme with that. But when you also look at the fact that once we get to the weapons, I do have extra rounds on there that we are storing compared to what we had on the battle platform, I think that kind of makes up for it. In this version, we're having full coverage. The battle platform had a half coverage. Of course, this is going to be on the ground, surface, whatever. No maneuverability. It's a stationary emplacement. We're keeping the body strength of 5D. Now, this is at Walker's scale. And then getting into our weapons. So we're going to have our 6-tube missile launcher with 120 rounds. Now, this is an individually fired. So every missile is going to be its own damage. So just leaving it at that. If you want all 6 to shoot at the same, then what we're going to do is we're going to add an extra D for every additional one. So adding a 5 to the 7 on to that, which then takes us up to a 12. So I'll put that in here. And we'll get this posted up hopefully later today. Um, all right, so it's going to be 12D for the missile barrage. I guess I'll label it that way. Oops. And then it's kind of emboldened. All right, take that off of bold. All right. And then next, we're going to have our 3 blaster cannons. Now, like I said, we do have cannons that are actually in these gun slots here. If you can see the mouse, behind the main 6-tube missile launcher, there is gun slots high up in the walls, and that does have machine guns or blaster cannons. And these are anti-personnel cannons. So that's what it's listed at, is personnel scale. Fire control is going to be our 1D, and they're going to have 5D damage. And we also have one cannon all the way up on top of the tower. So that gives us our 3 blaster cannons here. And last but not least, we have 3 anti-tank missile launchers. So we have one off on this side, we have one on the top, and I could have swore I had seen something over here. Now, I don't know what this plunger over here does, but it looks kind of like a plunger. I'm just going to list it as another missile launcher to say that, like everything else, we're trying to cover all angles here. And these are anti-tank So these are not at speeder scale, they're at walker scale. The same 2D plus 2 fire control, 7D for damage. And we're going to have 60 rounds. So essentially, you'd be able to get 20 shots off on each one, uh, giving us quite a bit of flexibility there. If Cobra tries to attack, that does give us quite a bit of ammunition to try and hold them off, as well as whatever other vehicles or emplacements that they may have. So trying to add all that into there. So this is what we have here today. I think it's a good encompass of what the headquarters, or at least a team headquarters, should be. Uh, Whenever we watched a cartoon, I mean, we have that beautiful big building sitting there with that massive cannon. But like I said, reading the old G.I. Joe comics, they're kind of hidden underneath a standard uh, army base, underneath the chaplain's kind of motor pool and everything else. So that, not trying to be too out in the open, but also wanting to recognize that we do have other teams that are out there in different areas, much like what Cobra has with a lot of their terrorist groups and cells and all that stuff. So I think it gives us a good encompass of something to help go against Cobra in case Cobra decides to attack them. Here is a nice headquarters for those teams. With that being said, thank you so very much for joining me today. It's wonderful having you here. Hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.